with the clock tower inspired by a tower on top of a cathedral in Seville, Spain. There is no back to the Wrigley building. It's designed to be beautiful from all sides. It's actually two buildings. The second building to the right was built in 1924. The two are connected by a skywalk. This was the tallest building in Chicago at the time that it was built. It's no longer one of the tallest, but definitely one of the most iconic. The style of architecture is Beaux-Art. Beaux-Art, you can see also a few more examples of that at the bridge houses here at Michigan Avenue, first bridge we're going under, and then the London Guarantee, the 1923 building with green scaffolding on the other side of the next bridge to the left. Beaux-Art, very dramatic style. And, oh, by the way, as we go into bridges, I do recommend looking up. Not for any educational reason, it's just a lot of fun to see cars zooming so closely over your heads. Now on our left, London Guarantee. Corinthian columns, griffins, and urns, the entire building divided into three parts, not unlike a Greek column itself, known as tripartite. This is Wacker Drive to our left. This is the first double and triple-decker street in the world, part of the 1909 city plan of Chicago, designed to alleviate traffic congestions. It also has a European influence to it. The balustrade is inspired by the walking gardens of the Palace of Versailles, so French influence. And around the corner to the left, with the green scaffolding on the face of it, is the domed cupola that is the Jewelers Building from 1927. 4 temples on the 4 corners of the base of the building, each one inspired by a single temple in Athens, Greece. The Jewelers Building was designed with an elevator the size of an automobile, so cars could drive directly inside and not be exposed to the mean streets of Chicago in 1927. This style, Beaux-Art, very popular in the city of Chicago. In the decades following the World's Fair of 1893, featured a temporary city designed by the architect Daniel Burnham, known as the White City, made of stucco and plywood, that was done in this somewhat European, somewhat Greco-Roman style, so you see the city reliving its glory days for the decades to come. Also, Chicago's a very young city. We only were incorporated in 1837, so there's a real charm borrowing this old world style. Make it look like we've been here a little bit longer than we actually had. Up and to the right, 1960s living. Those are the corncob towers of Marina City. Designed by the architect Bertrand Goldberg. Designed to be specifically for the middle class, to combat the suburban sprawl taking place post-World War II. Designed to be affordable, pie-shaped apartments up on top, open-air parking garage, and designed to be a city within the city, with a movie theater, bowling alley, pharmacy, grocery store. Everything you'd need from the suburbs in a downtown area, heated marina down below, and restaurant space as well. A car has driven off of the parking garage and into the river. Oh, it happened. But it wasn't an accident. It was for a movie, The Hunter, starring Steve McQueen, and then again for a television commercial. It's never happened in real life. There is 24-hour valet parking at Marina City. You do not park your own car. It is way too tricky. The cars are backwards because the visibility is so narrow, so tight, that that's the safest way to park. Now, designed for the middle class, it still is relatively affordable. It's about $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom. The architect Bertrand Goldberg strongly believed in class diversity. You need to have a middle class element in the downtown area. Or guys that like to hang out on the bridges and show off for people. That's, I assume you just saw Vincent without looking. He lives in the corncob towers. He's blind, local personality. Enjoyed showing off for the boats. On the other side of the next bridge to the left, we see a couple of guys enjoying the balcony on the newest residential building downtown. That's 111 West Wacker. 5 white cylindrical columns there in the middle geometric gash. It's the same height as the tops of the arms of the armchair-like Art Deco building just next door, continuing the same lines. 111 West Wacker is a residential building. Those skinny rectangles you see, those are windows that are open. And Bertrand Goldberg would not approve. It's $4,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. While not the most expensive in Chicago, it's definitely not middle class. Bertrand Goldberg, who designed the corncob towers, believed class diversity was crucial to the health and prosperity of any city. Here on our right, the Reed Murdoch Center from 1914. This is the front of the building facing the river. It's an old shipping warehouse. The river used to be lined with these shipping warehouses when the river was used for shipping. The Chicago River connects to the Des Plaines, to the Illinois River, and down to the Mississippi. This is the aquatic connection between the Great Lakes and the ocean. So the river was artificially widened in the early 19th century. It's about 25 feet deep and about 250 feet across. So a very busy shipping river. Used to have cranes constantly swinging out to load and unload on tall ships the size of buildings themselves, clustering their way along the river. Coming up on the right with the green side to it is the Helene Curtis building. This is an old coffee bean warehouse from 1912. Now, note how large the windows are. William LeBaron-Jenney perfected the steel frame skeleton. And with it, that allows for massive windows because the walls, the bricks, are not holding up the structure. Huge windows. The style of architecture is known as the Chicago School, conveniently labeled. The Chicago School movement is associated with the expression form follows function. No extra ornamentation that's not serving some purpose. Louis Sullivan, Chicago School architect, coined that phrase. A little bit more on the Chicago School later on in the tour, but coming up on the right, different architectural style, Art Deco. This is the Merchandise Mart from 1930. The Merchandise Mart was designed by the same architectural firm that designed the Wrigley Building, Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. The 8 oxidized green heads in the front are from 1954, nicknamed the Pez dispensers. They were each sculpted by a different artist. That's Marshall Field with the bird on his head. They represent the merchant kings of the 20th century. Marshall Field, Montgomery Ward, Woolworth, and Filene. The building itself is a business-to-business showroom space for merchandisers and retailers to come together in a one-stop shopping location. Now, it's a big building. It's a lot to take in, and I'll actually tell you a little bit more about it on the return trip when it's in front of the boat. But Joseph Kennedy purchased the Merchandise Mart and went on to construct what is now the Sun-Times building. But this is the old Apparel Mart here on the right from 1977. Concrete building, did not originally have any windows whatsoever, routinely voted the ugliest building in Chicago. It's a little prettier than it used to be. The Kennedy family sold off the buildings, but retained what had been a parking lot. Here on our right is a $1 billion construction site. Now, this is the future home of 3 skyscrapers, the tallest of which will be 95 stories. The Trump Tower is 96 stories. So 2 residentials and 1 office building. Known as the Wolf Point development. This is Wolf Point where we are here. This is the confluence of the 3 branches of the river. We're going to head up the north branch first. There is a lot of construction going on. Directly ahead of us, white structure with round windows. That's just the base of what will be a high-rise residential building. Oh, and here comes the L train, looking like a toy. The elevated train, called the L for short. The L has been part of the fabric of Chicago since the 1893 World's Fair, the Columbian Exposition. Now, before we get into this out-of-commission bridge directly ahead of us, I want to point out Riverbend. Riverbend was built in 2001, and oh yes, you can see a resident up there enjoying her balcony and enjoying her last views looking up the river before her only view is somebody else's living room. Riverbend was built for the view. 2001, designed by James Stefano. Curls inwards to maximize the view, and from this angle you can see how it leans out to the left. It gives more square footage for the more expensive condos on the upper floors. They can see the lake from up there. For now. A lawsuit was brought against the Kennedy family, not the Kennedy family, excuse me, the city of Chicago, to try and stop this construction site. That lawsuit was thrown out, and boy, oh boy, this is a busy construction site. They've been working non-stop every single day and night, all summer long to get this going. But construction is not a bad thing inherently. It means that people are investing in the city of Chicago, more and more people moving into the downtown area. This is an old warehouse. Here on our left, pink building with stars in the exterior. Actually, the oldest building on the tour, that is 1898, Fulton House. Fulton House was converted into condos in the late 1980s. And that's it when the windows and the balconies are punched through those thick walls. Directly ahead of us, out of commission bridge, 39 of these movable drawbridges throughout the city of Chicago. They are all trunnion bascule bridges, the bridges we're going to see today. This one doesn't move anymore, but you can see on the right the counterweight, the mechanism by which these bridges open and close. They're actually calibrated so precisely that just a little bit of exertion is required to open and close the bridges. This bridge has just been left open as a piece of urban sculpture. And it's less expensive to just leave it up. No, it's visually interesting, it's fun, and left over from how industrial this area used to be. Yeah, a lot of fun to look up at as we go under. This whole area has changed quite a bit, become much more residential. High-rise residential towers ahead of us. Those were just constructed. The one on the right was just constructed last year. Now, here, coming up on the left are the river cottages from 1990. Designed by Harry Weiss. Sailboat, nautically inspired. Porthole windows, spiral staircases. The rooftop looks like sails on a sailboat. 2 5-story townhouses, 2 4-story townhouses. They haven't been on the market since 1990. Original owners. It'll be very interesting to see what they go for when they do. They were built facing the river. Each condo has its own elevator. Each condo has its own dock. Built when most architecture along the river looked more like what you see directly ahead of us on the right. The East Bank Athletic Club from 1979. It's the back of the building, obviously not constructed to feature the river at all. Coming up on the left, you'll see some townhouses from 2001 to 2002. Price range between $850,000 and $1.2 million. Because this is now a residential neighborhood, here at Shoreline Sightseeing, we are the only company that's respecting the neighbors. We're going to go forward a little bit, turn around. I'm going to resume the tour on the microphone on the other side of the bridge. So yes, enjoy the view. Good time to visit Beth downstairs. I hear that she's making her famous among the Shoreline spicy Bloody Marys. She always gets compliments, so definitely check out her Bloody Marys downstairs. Also restrooms as well. So see you guys again in about 3 minutes.